Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown featuring myself leading the glorious forces of Clan ESHIN up against Almo Gaver and his High Elf legions, coming in with Imric the Dragon Prince, the proud High Elf himself, is going to be taking flight here and going gloriously toe-to-toe with Deathmaster Snikch, or at least we hope so. So for my build here, of course, we have gone in theme here and gone for a full Vanguard ESHIN build, which is the only way to play Skaven in my humble opinion. Now in some little slight Vanguard here, we do have 4 units of Gutter Runner Slingers with Poison. Now the reason I like the Gutter Runner Slingers is they have the bonus range here, which can allow us to poke down at those squishy High Elf targets, whip around the flanks and start shutting down archers and the like. Pretty decent and annoying tools for me to have and for my opponent to deal with. Now for my front line, it is going to be triple Death Runners here, including Vistrin's Death Squad, the Regiment of Renowned version, who not only look badass, they come with some pretty decent abilities and tools. Like all Death Runners, they do have Weeping Blades for minus 50% armor, and these guys are absolute lawnmowers and we're about to chew through Spearmen and Rangers alike. In the secondary line, we do have triple ESHIN Triads, including Ishka's Triads as well, who are pretty damn decent. They can make a duplicate of themselves, and the Weeping Blade anti-large armor piercing really helps out against cavalry, and I'm expecting a lot of Illyrian Reavers and the like that normally are taken in this matchup to hunt down the Mortar Crews, the Rattling Gunners, the Warplock Giselles, and all those other units which I don't actually possess here. We do have a nice hero core as well, coming with an ESHIN Sorcerer, of course, to stay with the thematic theme here, who of course brings Concealment Bombs. We do have the Fear of Aramar here, which is minus 24 leadership, a very potent item, which is also 120 seconds in length, which is very powerful indeed. He's also going to be bringing Brittle Bones, my favourite spell from this lore. We also have the Black Whirlwind as well as Warp Star, to do a nice little bit of chip damage to characters, dragons and the like. To finish off our build, we do have an assassin coming in with all his nasty tricks, as well as the Deathmaster Snikch himself, once again coming in with all his items. Some of them are rather expensive, especially the Cloak of Shadows for what it does, but at the same time, we were going for a themed build. It only made sense to bring all his goodies and toys. Now for my opponent's High Elf force here, he's gone for a rather interesting build himself. For the front line, he has a mixture of Rangers, 4 units to be precise, as well as a unit of Spearmen here with double silver chevron. Leading this frontal force, we have a Mage of Fire coming in with a Fireball and Burning Head. 2 certainly great picks in this matchup overall. Hidden in the trees, we have a unit of Silver Helms with shields. I really like the shield inclusion there, just to help deal with the huge missile pressure Skaven can bring. And on the most classical, I suppose, of dragons is Imric. I can't remember his dragon's name here, but it has a ridiculously long dragony name. And Imric, the Dragon Prince, bringing all his toys and goodies. The Star Lance, the Dragon Horn, and my favourite item for him, the Lord of Dragons, a very potent hex, which can be popped on top of characters as well as units. And that's what makes it so good and versatile. Minus 24 melee defense and 40 attack is pretty damn scary. And my opponent's also trying to be a little bit sneaky here. Has a nice Vanguard contingent, double Illyrian Reavers, one of which is the Herald of the Wind, the fastest land unit in the game, coming out at a whopping 105 speed. We also have double Shadow Warriors as well as the Storm Riders, Regiment of Renowned Lothran Seaguard, who of course can Vanguard. However, they are desperately far away from the main battle line here, so they're certainly going to have to get their hustle on and get over here as quickly as possible. My opponent most likely expecting a defensive gun line from me, but that's not how we are going to roll today. Already getting some nice damage onto the Rangers. Of course, do not have shields like their Spearmen brethren here. Looks like an early Fireball is going to go down. A little bit trigger happy here. I don't think Fireball is particularly useful on the Gutter Runners. Certainly wants to be used on my characters, but of course my opponent can't see any of my build right now. And he's actually dragging Imric all around the place to try and find out where my main force is. We are going to be closing the gap, so my opponent will soon know that the Clan ESHIN is upon him. I'm sure he's already quaking in his boots. So once again, we're going to be trying to focus down the Rangers where possible, getting some decent chip damage straight out of the gate, but in comes a Fireball. That's Fire Mage whipping some fire into reality. And doing a pretty decent strike, not quite a critical hit, but Deathmaster Snikch certainly takes a chunk of damage here, and the main battle line is underway. Vistrin's Death Squad is hopping on top of the Rangers here with the help of some long-range support as well, and the Death Runners here are chewing through the Spearmen with deadly efficiency. My opponent does pop a lovely burner head down, but I managed to dodge just about in time here. It does leave the Rangers to be roasted. I do leave the second unit in though. Thinking that I was going to be able to dodge it, but the Flame Head does actually move sometimes when cast and kind of whipped around through my ranks. I managed to dodge it with the ESHIN Triads, allowing the Rangers here just to get a little bit of singe. So we are annihilating and kind of running over the front line, which is very good for me, as there's a pretty big scary dragon up in the skies who I'm quite scared of at this point. I don't have too many great tools to bring him down, so I'm going to be throwing in some of those poison slings at him. I'm trying to do a decent bit of damage, as another fireball comes in and clips the Deathmaster himself, going down to about half health, which is some pretty scary stuff all round. So I'm going to be chucking him in to combat and the relative safety of his fellow Death Runners and ESHIN Triads. A big breath attack does come down, trying to do damage to my regiment of renowned Death Runners, but not connecting fully, but instead Silver Helms are going to be coming in for some lovely cycle charges, so very well played to my opponent here, flinging at my poor squishy rats to the ground. However, the ESHIN Triads are quick to respond and should be able to drag down a fair few of these horsemen themselves. Imric is looking still pretty healthy, but we're starting to get a decent amount of chip damage as another fireball is whipped into existence and absolutely hammers the Deathmaster, who does have Lord of Dragons popped on him. So in retaliation, we are going to pop on concealment bombs to allow us to get a little bit hidden. And as you can see, the Illyrian Reavers have arrived, and they're a big threat for me here. My army has very low armor values all round. I don't have too many good counters to them apart from my slingers, who are currently busy trying to bring it down Imric. Unfortunately for me, that little symbol there does mean the Deathmaster has been spotted, and Imric spies a tasty snack here and is going to be floating up overhead. My opponent pins me in with the Heralds of the Wind, which is a bit of a sacrifice, but it is going to allow him to get a glorious breath attack off, and he just absolutely roasts the Deathmaster, who's down to just 63 health and is running for the hills here. My opponent, smelling blood, does decide to land with Imric to try and assassinate the assassin, which is a huge mistake, as we do pop Assassin's Trophy, Rival Hide Talisman, as well as an Overcast Brittle Bones here, which is going to nuke Imric's stats here. We can actually slow that down here and have a quick look. The Mighty and Proud Prince is down to 0 melee defense and only 40 armor, which is pretty scary stuff considering how big a target he is to hit. And yeah, he's really starting to struggle here. Brittle Bones upgraded, also lower speed by a decent amount, and Imric does just about manage to escape, unfortunately for me, but huge damage was done to him there, and he should be able to get up into the skies, but we still have consistent fire coming by the Gutter Runners trying to drag him down. My opponent does chuck the Silver Helms into combat, desperate to save their Dragon Lord. That is going to allow us to do some pretty decent damage to these guys and slowly whittle them down here. However, the Deathmaster is pretty much out of action. He is running in the distance here and perhaps can live to fight another day. But Imric has rallied. He does take some nasty ninja stars to the face there, however, from my caster, which is going to be a good way to attempt to bring him down. It does, in fact, break his leadership, but Imric is a proud Dragon Lord, and he will be coming back to the main fray, of course. Illyrian Reaver archers do try and punish my Gutter Runner slingers, but these guys aren't terrible in combat. They're not like slave slingers or anything, so we're going to pin them in with some Death Runners and slowly drag down the Illyrian Reavers as we finish off all the mobile elements of my opponent. Unfortunately, I have just discovered my opponent has Shadow Warriors, and they do float into the battle here with a ton of ammunition, and my forces are really beat up with incredibly low armor. Just 20 armor on the majority of my forces here is pretty scary stuff coming up against so much ammunition here. Illyrian Reavers are now forced off, as Deathmaster Snikch does indeed rally. I'm going to be trying to bring him back, but I believe he just kind of keeps breaking and routing off the field, unfortunately. I don't blame him, he is only a rat after all. The Heralds of the Wind do burst forth from the trees here, looking to hunt down my troops once more. I am pushing forward my Gutter Runner slingers, trying to take the majority of the ammunition on them to leave my Triads as well as my Death Runners nice and healthy. Imric is going to be hiding behind some trees and trying his best to stay out of the engagement as the cowardly elf he is. Or at least he's kind of shown himself to be here. We are pulling back with all our Triads as well as our Death Runners, hoping that the kind of skirmish formation of these guys, although they're quite bunched up at the moment, will be able to waste the ammunition on these Shadow Warriors. But I'm taking huge amounts of burst fire. It's probably a better idea to bomb rush, I think, at this point, rather than kind of sit back and take this damage. But still, at least we are wasting some ammunition. As you can see, we're once again going to be throwing those Shuriken Stars into Imric. Some of them do connect, bringing down just a 339 health, which, you know, is still, you know, you can still come in and do some pretty decent damage late game, and perhaps snipe out a character. My opponent's definitely trying to force off my slingers at this point to allow Imric safe passage to the battlefield to do breath attacks and the like. But I'm going to be pushing forward once more. At this point I decided I was going to bomb rush the Shadow Warriors, but in the back I do notice some Illyrian Reaver archers going to hunt down my Gutter Runner slingers, and that's quite a lot of value left here, a decent amount of ammunition, so we're going to pull back our forces once more, taking a ton of missile fire. But at this point I'm just simply trying to bide time so I can once again launch some shurikens, and as you can see they do dart off, clipping Imric down to 115 health. A rather annoying fireball does come in, clipping at the assassin. He is certainly getting some PTSD here from seeing Snikch get absolutely roasted. But the bonus here of those ninja stars, running by the ESHIN sorcerer here, let's actually find out the correct name of those. If he gets up off the ground. There we go. They are the Warp Stars. It only costs 4 wings of magic and is really quick to come back once you have used it. So we do have it active once again. So we're going to try and push forward to finish off Imric. I don't think my opponents noticed the little amount of chip damage. I realise that I've got quite isolated here. We do pop a concealment bomb in order to escape. But we are going to be taking a fat volley from the Shadow Warriors, who did spot him. But a little bit of juking, it means the young lad should be fine there. We do finally manage to shatter the Illyrian Reaver archers, and once again can now push forward without the worry of being kind of consistently rear charged and cycle charged in the back. So I'm going to try to push forward and get that a little bit closer to Imric. Balance power is still dead even, but at this point I'm not feeling particularly great about my chances. Shadow Warriors can simply kite me basically all they want, as well as the Storm Riders here who can pin me in place. A lot of my troops are consistently wavering here, which is pretty scary stuff. So the Triads and the Death Runners do rally to the cause here, pushing forward with the Assassin, who is skulking a little bit closer and closer, looking to hunt down these Shadow Warriors. And in comes another of those Warp Stars, and we do manage to slay the mighty Imric with a 4 winds of magic cast, which is pretty ridiculous stuff. But a fireball does come in retaliation, doing massive damage to the ESHIN sorcerer. This major fire, a real MVP so far by my opponents, making up, I suppose, for that horrible friendly fire early on. So I'm going to drop in our big Vortex spell here on the Storm Riders. And the armed forces are pretty much broken and running anyway, so I'm not too fussed here about the friendly fire. And it actually does some pretty consistent and decent damage here, which, you know, isn't too bad at all. It's a spell I don't really get to see too often because it doesn't last too long. It has a really cool animation and did some decent damage. So the next fireball does miss. It looks like it may have singed the ESHIN sorcerer a little bit, who is now going to be running for the hills, which is pretty scary stuff. But a lot of the forces of the High Elves have broken. We did drop the fear down as well, as I saw my sorcerer was going to break, and I had to pick a target. I wanted to force these guys off, as it looked like they were going to stand and fight a little while longer, and the mage was pretty healthy in the leadership department, so I didn't think it was going to be enough to break her off the field. So at this point, it is going to be a simple matter of trying to chase down troops. And if my opponent has 1 or 2 fireballs left in them, they could certainly pull this back. If they could finish off the assassin, the rest of these troops will certainly break. Looks like the Storm Riders do indeed rally here. I managed to shatter one of my Gutter Runners. In retaliation, we shatter them back. And we're simply now going to chase all these kind of nasty units off, shattering the Shadow Warriors before chasing off the last unit, who consistently rallied, despite the fact I had units literally hugging them and shanking them in the back. They continue to rally. And my opponent here is going to be riding forth. Nice to see, because occasionally you will get people on ladder who in this situation, relatively late into the game, the battle has been going for 13 minutes, which is pretty long. On horseback, they would just hide in the corner of the map and pull out a draw, as I think the balance of power is favouring them, but as long as there's no fireballs, this assassin is going to be a huge pain for my opponent. We do drop a concealment bombs just in case, to try and get us that little bit closer. And the Gutter Runners are now going to engage in glorious combat, but my opponent trying to push through onto the assassin. Notice his only hope is to get some really lucky RNG. We do pop Slippery though and Assassin's Trophy, and with that this mage does stand firm for a little while But the assassin is going to be cutting the hamstrings of the horse before slitting the throat here of the Mage of Fire, shattering her and getting us a very, very Pyrrhic victory there. So very well played to my opponent there, Almogaver. Really fun game and a really fun build on his behalf as well. I quite like the idea of going for this glorious Vanguard core, certainly expecting me to go for more of a gun line. He wants to eliminate those guns before swooping in with Imric to kind of carry the day. Unfortunately for him, he did not expect the mighty Clan ESHIN themed build. I've been having a ton of fun actually doing this type of build. I've played 4 or 5, maybe even 6 games of this recently with pretty decent success, but it's obviously not very competitive, but it's super fun and it can certainly catch your opponent off guard. The Death Runners certainly did a decent job here overall, getting huge damage across the board, but the real MVP is the ESHIN Sorcerer, finishing off that last blob of the Storm Riders, as well as assassinating Imric and dropping that Brittle Bones and, you know, all the debuffs with the assassin, managing to just absolutely destroy Imric in a matter of seconds before finishing him off in the most kind of ungracious of ways with those little darts there. So very fun game overall. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up and subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. We do drop between 6 to 7 videos a week. If you want to see your replays up on the channel, feel free to join my Discord. There's a link just down below, and on my Discord there's a little tab where you can submit replays, and also in the description below you can find other ways of supporting the channel, such as Patreon and all that kind of, you know, standard YouTube stuff. Anyway guys, until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.